Okay. Hopefully this is on. Is this on? Is it? Okay. All right. I just want to thank you all for coming out. A beautiful day, and I appreciate all of you coming out to join us for this music today. We have several alums and guests joining the ensemble here today, and exciting to see them joining us. And I hope all of you stay active in your music all your life, like these amazing people are doing here. So today we also have a guest with us. Dr. Wurster is going to be joining us, and so it's exciting to have another director with us. Our first piece today, Swords Against the Sea, has a little bit of a story behind it, and so there's 3 movements in this piece. And we're going to have the students read for you the little background from the composer talking about each of the movements prior to us playing it. So Swords Against the Sea will be our first selection.
On November 22nd, 1996, a newly discovered shipwreck off the coast of North Carolina was confirmed as Queen Anne's Revenge, one of the most feared pirate ships of its day. This was the famous flagship of the notorious pirate Blackbeard. His reign of terror on the Atlantic and Caribbean Sea lasted for 2 years, 1717 to 1718, and ended abruptly in a fatal battle with the Royal Navy on November 22nd, 1718. The confirmation of the shipwreck was made on the 278th anniversary of Blackbeard's death. Swords Against the Sea is a 3-movement work depicting the life and adventures of Blackbeard and his motley band of high seas hijackers.
The piece begins with a high-spirited, rambunctious sea shanty, which introduces the motif that will represent Blackbeard throughout the piece. A devilish waltz springs forth in the middle of the movement to depict the wild drinking and partying that ensues after taking of a prize, the pirate term for taking possession of another ship and looting its goods. A cannon shot from one of the 40 cannons on board the ship leads into the recap of Blackbeard's theme. A rollicking final cadence played in the unison by the entire band will close out the final movement.
For a while, Blackbeard's exploits are tolerated by the people and governing bodies of the American colonies because he is providing a valuable service to the colonists by selling his ill-gotten goods at low prices they can afford. But when he blockades the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina, taking hostages and demanding a ransom of medical supplies from the city, local authorities become enraged and begin to seek Blackbeard's capture. In November of 1718, the governor of Virginia dispatched 2 Navy sloops to Ocracoke Inlet, where he had learned Blackbeard could be found. The second movement of the piece describes the night before the fatal battle. Blackbeard and his men could see the Navy vessels in the distance. They are safe for now because a low tide preventing the Navy sloops from advancing within cannon range, but they know that come morning, the tide will rise and the attack will commence. Blackbeard, the most menacing and feared pirate of all time, is confident and unafraid, but his men, knowing that they are about to do battle with professional battle-tested soldiers of the king's fleet, are very nervous and fear that they will meet their doom. So they begin to put their affairs in order and make final preparations for battle. This includes pouring sand onto the deck of the ship to soak up and prevent slipping and sliding during hand-to-hand combat. In the final hours before dawn, they enjoy one last moment of peaceful serenity before the approaching storm.
As the Royal Navy approaches, the trombones boldly state, "God save the King." A muted French horn answers back with Blackbeard's defiant theme. Blackbeard's advantage in his superior firepower and a greater knowledge of the surrounding geography. So he lets the royal sloops chase him into shallow waters, where they run aground, while Blackbeard maneuvers his way through the sandbars. He then launches a fierce cannon attack, destroying one of the Navy's sloops and disabling the other. Thinking the battle is won, Blackbeard and his men board the royal sloop, as its captain, Robert Maynard, and his men wait in ambush below deck. Maynard and his sailors suddenly and viciously pounce upon the surprised pirates. During the furious sword and pistol fight that follows, Blackbeard suffers a reported 20 sword lacerations and 5 musket ball wounds. As Blackbeard comes face to face with Captain Maynard, he fires his pistol but misses. Maynard is more accurate with his pistol and hits Blackbeard. However, Blackbeard is still able to raise his sword against the captain. Just as he is about to lower the sword onto Maynard, his throat is slashed from behind the sword of a gallant seaman. The victorious Maynard has Blackbeard's head cut off and hoisted up onto the mast of his sloop as a warning to all those who would dare terrorize the sea.
I hadn't decided if I was going to actually say anything or just come up and conduct, but the piece that I'm going to conduct has a little bit of story that goes with it, and I think it makes the piece more meaningful if you hear the story. First of all, the Engulfed Cathedral is one of my favorite pieces of music, period. And I remember very distinctly the first time that I heard this piece in a classroom over in the YFAC in music theory. And I remember it making me feel uncomfortable because I wasn't used to the tonalities that Debussy used. My ear wasn't sophisticated enough to really understand it. And it's always stuck with me. And so, because it is one of my favorite pieces, I thought, well, is there a band transcription? And there is, and this one is it's just stunning. The story behind this particular piece, it's about the mythical Cathedral of Ys off the coast of Brittany. I will give you the short version of this. The cathedral, and really what is a city-state on an island off the coast, was really somewhat of a paradise. And the people were happy and enjoyed life and maybe a little bit naive to the dangers and evils in the world. Well, the city itself was built with a gigantic seawall all the way around because at high tide, they would close the gates to the city to keep out the water. So the footprint of the city was actually below sea level at high tide. One day a visitor came, knocked on the door, and was invited in. Little did the people of Ys know that this character, depending on which story you are, listen to, is the devil, and comes in to tempt the king's daughter specifically to open the gates at high tide. Well, the gates were locked with the key, and the daughter listened to the devil, stole the key from her father, opened up the city gates at high tide, and of course the city and the cathedral sunk to the bottom of the sea. And as a reminder, each day the cathedral rises up from the depths and pushes out of the ocean, and you will hear that moment in the piece, and then slowly sinks down to remind people of what may happen when you listen to people that you shouldn't.
Okay, well, a couple of things I need to announce. First of all, I'm supposed to announce that there's an alumni reception in Hosay after this, and so you're encouraged to go participate with that. For those of you that may not know, I'm not the band guy, I'm the choir guy. And although I have 30 years of band experience, I'm the choir person. And I'm just filling in for Professor Fogstead, who's recovering from health issues right now. So if you could keep Professor Fogstead and the family in your prayers, that would be super, that he can continue to recover and get back so I can get back to my choir stuff where I belong. That being said, I totally enjoy working with the band. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your work. I am enjoying working with you. So our last piece, John Williams. I always enjoy doing John Williams. So Raiders March.